Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. Welcome back to SPANK'UM Chess on YouTube. I am your host, B Hood. What's good? Is also known as SPANK'UM Chess or SPANK'UM 73 on chess.com. Now, today's lecture, I'll be talking about the Nimzowitsch defense from the black perspective. The Nimzowitsch defense arises after the following move order: e4, knight to c6. That is the opening to the Nimzowitsch defense. D4. Now, when we run across D4 in some of my other videos on TikTok to YouTube, I've always mentioned that when they go, and that's usually with the lower ranked opponents. Like again, at this time of my game here, I was at 1600. And my post is at 1608 actually, and my opponent was at maybe about a 666 and 1666. And typically when you run across this, you'll find this among people of 17. Even some higher rated opponents will play d4, but typically you'll find that around 17 1800 or lower. So I'm talking to you guys, all you grandmasters that might want to tune in to talk crap about me and how this or that. Hey, I'll see you over the chessboard. Win or lose, I'm gonna feel good, because the thing is, you don't get any kudos for beating a lower ranked player, unless they're, when I say lower ranked, I mean if you're 2500 and I'm 2200, okay, that's something. But if I'm 16 1700 and you're 22 and I wipe the floor with you, who gets more notoriety? So again, let's go through it. So when they go d4 in this board, in this position here, my recommend, and I give this, let me give this shout out before I get into the game, to GJ Chess. I had been watching GJ Chess's channel on YouTube since about 2017, 2018, and he came out with a series called a repertoire for black concerning the move white e4, one e4 for white. And I never studied any I've never studied any openings for black. I understood them, so to speak. I can recognize them. But when I was playing from the black side of the board, I didn't have a repertoire. My only repertoire was my mind. I just played and I just played. But now he had introduced what he calls the Nimzowitsch defense. Now, as I'm showing you here, and a system called the Colorado Gambit. In the Colorado Gambit, you have sideline moves like this, where they go d4. And in this position, he recommends, and I also recommend also that you go to e5, attacking the pawn on d4. Now he has to do something about that. Now this move order, again, I'm not going into the theory, so to speak, but I can't give you an exact move order, but I'll give you main themes for you to recognize and see when you're playing against your opponent, in particular over the board. Now, over the board, they're going to be uncomfortable with this. They've never seen this. I won't say never, but when you begin to understand the move order, and a lot of the moves that I'm going to present to you are going to be force moves, meaning they're going to do this because this is the only option, so to speak. So let's get into it. E5 is a situation. As you can see by the arrows, I'm attacking with two pieces. And normally the opponent that's lower ranked than you will push forward to gain space in the center, and that is a wise thing to do. So we go knight c to e7, and he goes to c3. Again, another sideline move, but this helps us continue to go with our main program, which will be knight to g6. He goes to, now he's looking to fianchetto his bishop on f2 and move it to on f1 and move it to g2 and bring his knight to either f3 or h3 and castle on the king side. You need to recognize that early on, because it would be foolish for him to make that move and do anything other than that. The reason why is because he has holes on the king side. Now he may say to himself that I'm going to start the bum rush with either h4 or f4, but that by then it's going to be too late. So we go to bishop to b4, pinning the knight, and hopefully to disrupt his plans and destroy his queenside pawns, meaning destroys, giving him a double pawn. And again, he's going to protect that because he doesn't want it to happen, which we see. We continue with our normal piece development with knight to f6. He goes bishop to d3. So he's planning, in my estimation, he's going to plan to castle on the king side. Now, of course, this is me rehashing the game I already played, so I'm not saying that, oh, this is what he's going to do. And no, but I can see just with the move order. And if you look at the white's piece placement, his bishops are still, they're very compact and they're sitting back waiting to strike. I call bishops snipers. So he has his snipers laying in the cut like he should. They're not very exposed. And they have good scope. Scope meaning because they're on D, they still have the same amount of, just about the same amount of squares to cover. But nonetheless, I'm not worried about that because the pawn on E5 stops that push. I castle on the king side. Now, if you look at it, let's see what he does. What do you think white is going to do in this position? What would you do in this position? Now, please leave it in the comments and let me know. Please, in this position right here, what would you do? Now, a lot of players will probably go knight to F3, preparing the castle, or they go queen to E2, preparing the castle on the queen side. Let's see what he does. Knight to F3. Again, even though I'm rehashing this game that I played, it's the point that I see that. And now, with the knight to F3 move, if you look at it with a simple push of pawn to D6, that's going to open up this diagonal. And that's going to start bundling up his pieces. Because if he castles and if he castles here, and I go bishop to H3, that's going to leave a lot of, yes, he brings his rook. He'll bring his rook to the E file and can line them up. But look, I have 1, 2, 3 pieces on his side, on the king side. What does he have on mine? He only had, in this case, he would only have one, and this is where my king is. Sure, he has scope with the bishop on D3 and the bishop on D2. However, they're still bottled up. He can apply a minimal amount of pressure, but if he were to go here, let's say he goes here, he makes that move there. Of course, my next play would be to go ahead and let's do that. Now that's a prophylactic move. Now, sometimes it might be better for me to open it on up. Boom. Because the thing is, he's still gonna have to waste another move to try to pin my knight to my bishop. I mean he's gonna try to pin my knight to my queen, but I'll kick him away easily with a move like H6. So let's go back. So in this position, what does he do? He doesn't castle. He, again, creates more holes on the king side with a move like F3 because he's trying to prevent my bishop from going down there and threatening his rook. But that gave me opportunities. It gave me opportunities. Let's see how the game progressed. I go to H3, a good prophylactic move. I mentioned the prophylactic move. It's basically a waiting move. It's a waiting move. And you're setting up other things while you're waiting to see what your opponent would do. He threatens my bishop on B4, so I take his knight. So now he has two bishops. Now in chess, I must say that chess ends up being, if you have two knights on the board, a knight is worth 3. And okay, this is the scoring. Rooks are worth 5. Your queen is worth, these are points. Just a point scale. Pawns are worth 1 point. Your minor pieces, i.e. your bishop and your knight, are worth 3 points. Your rooks are worth 5. Each rook is worth 5. And your queen is worth 9 points. However, you can have 2 knights and that'll add up to 6. But if you have 2 bishops, you get an extra point, so that'll add up to 7. So even though, how does that translate onto the chessboard? You need to look at that in the sense of, well, if you have 7 and 6, that means that counts as an extra pawn. That counts like a pawn that you don't have on the board. That's how I see it. Okay, so that's the thing. So I catch his knight, bishop captures C3, and he goes, bishop captures C3, which again is a good move. But as you look, you can look at the scope, but they're bottled in. There are pieces in the way, and it's going to take a little bit of time for him to open that up. While on the other hand, even though he's advanced pawns, he has a pawn on H3, pawn on G3. He has 3 pawns on the third rank. A pawn, G pawn, and an H pawn. He also has a pawn on D5 and a pawn on E4. So he does have some expansion. The thing is, I have a compact pawn structure. My pawns are still waiting to just come on out. But I have all my major pieces in the game, and his king is still in the center. And the downside is, if he castles on the king side, you know he's going to lose the h3 pawn. So let's go. Let's see what he does here. I go knight to e8, attempting to push the pawn on f5. I want to expand on that side and cause disruption. He goes queen to d2. Now, as you see, he is planning on castling on the queen side just by his particular move order. Now, let's see here. I go f5. That is another thing. You want to push that f5 and open it up. I want to give him my light squared bishop. I want to take his light squared bishop and give him mine. I'm not worried about it because, as you can see, with it not being a very open board, the knights are gonna have nice little holes to pop and hop into. Let's see. He captures f5. Bishop captures f5, and he castles on the queen side, like I mentioned before. Now, he does have, when you're looking at it, he does have a bunch of pieces. He has his queen and rook lined up on the d file along with his bishop waiting to be expanded, and he has his dark square bishop on c3. However, they don't have a lot of scope. They don't have a lot that they can do in this particular position. Now, in here, I made a blunder move. The computer doesn't say it won't be a blunder, but it was a slight inaccuracy, and we'll see what it is. And you probably see it too. Tell me what you think it is. You can leave it in the comments, or as you're viewing along, pause the video for a second and tell me what you think the error was in my judgment. Okay, I'm going to show you what the error was. It was e4. E4. It looks like I'm forking two pieces, but he has a definite way out. He just attacks my bishop, which was a good move. You can look at the evaluation bar on the left side of the screen. You can see his evaluation went up was 1.2. Let's go back and see where it was at the time. Before that, the 1.4. Let me see here. See, look, 0.85. I have the advantage when he castles. When he castled, I had a 0.85 advantage. Negative. So the negative is good for black. When I go to e5, when I look at that, look at the jump. Look at the jump. But the thing is, we don't have those evaluation bars and computer estimates when we're playing over the board or even online. I just don't think it's readily available. If they do, they have it on a split screen, and it's like cheating, but that's okay. So he attacks back. I say, hey, screw it. We're going to trade. We're just going to trade out. I'm going to take his. He's going to take mine. He takes my bishop. G captures f5. Rook captures f5. And now I'm attacking his knight on f3 and the pawn on d5. What does he choose to do? He chooses to capture back with his queen. Queen captures d3. So now I bring my queen into the game. My queen has just now been activated with queen to d7, protecting the rook on protecting the rook on f5. Good move. He's bringing a piece into the game. But now, if you look at the evaluation bar, even though as I'm playing the game, I'm looking at it now and I can see how it goes back and forth. The thing is, you don't have those when you're playing the game. So, and I know that if I move that knight, or he's threatening the knight, if I move that knight, it's going to be cookies. It's going to be a serious problem. So let's see what I do. I threaten his queen. Now, the pawn on g7 is protected with my knight here, on e8. I'm attacking his queen on d3, and it's a double attack on the pawn on d5. So him coming down with a check with the rook coming down with the check down here, with this rook coming down for a check, meaningless because I can capture back with the knight. And as you can see, the evaluation bar goes way up, even though sometimes we don't see those things. As we go back, he goes queen to d2. He goes queen to d2. Now, in this position, I was looking for a sequence where I can get the upper hand. So It didn't always come to me, but I'm going to see what I end up ultimately doing. Knight. Now, 3 pieces are attacking the pawn on D5. Now, again, when you look at the evaluation window, you can see that he's clearly ahead. He's clearly ahead. However, again, as I keep mentioning, over and over and over and over again, none of those things matter when you look at it, because that'll throw them off. They'll be looking like, okay, he's attacking. Now, the smart ones say, okay, that's nothing. That's a pawn. I can attack it at any time. But we'll see what my opponent does. He chooses to capture the pawn on F6. I capture back with my rook. Now there's a double attack on the pawn on H3. He goes queen to D4. Now, with that, now that's a dual purpose threat. But he failed to count and see the bottom line of what's wrong with that move. Now, I'll give you a few seconds. And I'm pretty sure you guys already see it, but I'll give you a few seconds so you can see what was the problem with that move. Okay, I'm going to show you. Knight to E2 check, forking. That's what they call a family fork. The family fork. You're checking the king, you're checking the rook, and you're checking the queen. That's a family fork. And as you can see, my opponent resigned over here. Now, there's a learning lesson in everything that we play, regardless of what the evaluation bar says. And of course, you should always go back and evaluate and analyze your games. That will definitely improve your chess rating and your chess theory, your chess vision, solving puzzles and things. But you still always have to get out there and just play. So in essence, get out there. Do not be afraid to make moves. Do not be afraid to just, hey, lose a game. You need to learn like that. But I'm not trying to teach you how to lose. I'm trying to teach you how to win. So until next time, this is SPANK'UM Chess, and I'll see you soon. Bye.